So let me get this straight, Lieutenant Alex Reeves said, leaning forward with elbows on the metal table. You fellas spent 3 centuries analyzing us, studying our every move, probing our defenses, and you still thought we'd fold in under 4 hours? The alien diplomat, if you could call a 9-foot-tall gelatinous sack of bioluminescent goo with 14 eye stalks a diplomat, rippled in what humans had come to recognize as embarrassment. The high concordance calculations were imprecise, it admitted, voice gurgling through its translator module. Our predictive models failed to account for certain variables. Variables, Alex repeated flatly. You mean like how we kicked your tentacled asses back to the Cygnus arm in 17 minutes? The alien, officially designated as Representative Vkr'lak of the Galactic Confederacy, but nicknamed Jello Shot by the human delegation, pulsed a deep indigo. 19 minutes and 43 seconds by your measurements. Oh, pardon me. Those extra 2 minutes and 43 seconds make all the difference. Behind Alex, Admiral Harrison cleared his throat. A reminder to maintain some semblance of diplomatic decorum, no doubt. Alex leaned back in her chair, crossing her arms over her chest. Diplomacy wasn't exactly her strong suit, which was precisely why they'd selected her for this meeting. The aliens liked honest reactions. At least that's what intelligence claimed. Something about their species evolving without the concept of deception. What bullshit. Every sentient species lied. These gelatinous bastards had just convinced themselves they were above it. What Lieutenant Reeves means to express, Admiral Harrison interjected smoothly, is our confusion regarding your strategic assessments. Your invasion force was... He paused, searching for a diplomatic term. Substantially overwhelmed. Jello Shot's translucent body swirled with colors. Embarrassment, frustration, and something the xenobiologists hadn't cataloged yet. Probably existential dread. Humans tended to inspire that in alien species these days. The High Concordat has existed for millennia, Jello Shot burbled. We have incorporated 47 species into our collective. Humans are the first to ever repel a formal integration attempt. Integration attempt? Alex snorted. Is that what you call deploying 50,000 warships to our solar system? 49,827, the alien corrected pedantically. And yes, by our standards, it was a minimal integration force. The statistical models predicted a 99.9997% chance of success. Admiral Harrison leaned forward. Perhaps you should reconsider your statistical models. Perhaps, Jello Shot admitted, eye stalks drooping. The Concordat's High Council is distressed by the miscalculation. Alex couldn't help herself. I'd be distressed too if I lost 50,000 ships in 20 minutes. 19 minutes and 43 seconds, the alien corrected again. Whatever, the point is you picked the wrong planet to integrate. The truth was, humans had gotten lucky. Not that Alex would ever admit it to the gelatinous diplomat squelching across from her. The Concordat's invasion fleet had arrived precisely when Earth was conducting its Centennial Defense Readiness exercise, the largest mobilization of military assets in human history. What was meant to be an elaborate simulation turned into the real thing in an instant. The aliens hadn't even had time to deliver their standard resistance is futile speech before the combined Earth defense fleet unleashed hell. Alex had been there, commanding a tactical wing of response fighters. Her squad alone had taken down 12 of the aliens' capital ships before they even raised shields. It wasn't a battle, it was a slaughter. Now, 3 weeks later, here she sat, facing down what remained of the Concordat's diplomatic corps, trying to negotiate humanity's formal introduction to the galactic community, without, preferably, any more attempted integrations. I've been authorized to offer you terms, Jello Shot said, its body settling into a more formal shape, less wobble, more rigid structures forming within the gelatinous mass. Terms? Alex laughed. We're not the ones who lost an armada. I think you're confused about who's offering terms to whom. Admiral Harrison shot her a warning glance but didn't contradict her. The Concordat acknowledges Earth's unexpected capabilities, the alien continued. We propose a mutually beneficial arrangement. Let me guess, Alex said. You want our weapons technology? The alien pulsed. Among other things, yes. Your point-to-point quantum tunneling weapons were unanticipated. The ability to teleport fusion warheads directly into the engineering sections of our vessels without transiting the intervening space is concerning. That old trick? Alex waved dismissively. We've had that for decades. It's practically obsolete. It wasn't, of course. Earth's QT weapons were brand new, barely out of the prototype stage. But the aliens didn't need to know that. Jello-Shot's eye stalks extended in what xenobiologists had labeled as the equivalent of raised eyebrows. If such technology is obsolete, we would be most interested in what you consider current. Admiral Harrison stepped in before Alex could continue the bluff. What Representative Vkr'lak is too polite to say is that the Concordat is worried we might decide to expand beyond our solar system. They see us as a threat. Are they wrong? Alex asked. The Admiral didn't answer directly. Humanity has no immediate plans for expansion. We're still working on getting our own house in order. Jello-Shot's body rippled in what might have been relief. Then perhaps we can reach an accommodation. The Concordat proposes recognition of Earth's sovereignty within its solar system, non-aggression pacts, and limited cultural exchange. Limited? Alex raised an eyebrow. Sounds like you're still scared of us. Not scared, the alien corrected. Cautious. Your species is unpredictable. Damn straight we are, Alex said with a grin. And don't you forget it. The journey back to Earth was quiet. Alex stared out the viewport of the diplomatic shuttle, watching stars streak by as they traversed the artificial wormhole the Concordat had graciously provided as a gesture of goodwill. You enjoyed that a little too much, Admiral Harrison remarked, breaking the silence. Alex turned from the viewport. What, putting the fear of humanity into a bunch of squishy aliens? Hell yes, I enjoyed it. The Admiral's lips twitched, almost forming a smile. Your approach was unorthodox. That's why you brought me, isn't it? Good cop, bad cop. I was the bad cop. You were supposed to be the honest military perspective, not antagonize an alien species that, despite their recent defeat, still controls a significant portion of the galaxy. Alex shrugged. Same difference. Besides, they respect strength. All that diplomatic sorry, sir, diplomatic finesse doesn't mean anything to them. They tried to conquer us, failed spectacularly, and now they're trying to save face. Harrison nodded slowly. Perhaps. But there's a difference between demonstrating strength and flaunting it. With all due respect, sir, flaunting is exactly what we need to do right now. The Concordat's going to go back to their 47 integrated species and tell stories about the crazy humans who obliterated their fleet. The more outrageous those stories are, the less likely anyone else tries to mess with us. And if they decide we're too dangerous to leave alone? Alex gestured to the stars streaking past. Then we'll show them just how dangerous we can be. 6 months later, Alex found herself back in a similar meeting room, though this time on Earth. Luna Base, specifically, in the newly constructed Extraterrestrial Diplomatic Corps headquarters. Jello-Shot, still the official Concordat representative to humanity, quivered across the table. But this time, it wasn't alone. Representatives from a dozen alien species sat, stood, or hovered around the large circular table. The first formal galactic assembly on human territory. This is outrageous, burbled a small amphibian-like creature that had introduced itself as the representative of the Vkr'lak Confederation. Humans cannot possibly be granted full council status after a mere 6 months of contact. Yet here we are, Alex replied with a lazy smile. She'd been promoted to commander following the Concordat incident, and now served as military attaché to the diplomatic corps, a position created specifically to make alien representatives uncomfortable, discussing exactly that. The Concordat's recommendation is unprecedented, hissed a reptilian delegate. Jello-Shot's body rippled defensively. The recommendation is based on thorough assessment. Humanity has demonstrated technological capabilities that qualify them for Tier 1 status. After a single engagement, the amphibian objected. This is clearly preferential treatment, Alex leaned forward. If by preferential treatment you mean recognizing that we destroyed the largest armada the Concordat has ever assembled in less than 20 minutes, then sure. 19 minutes and 43 seconds, Jello-Shot corrected automatically. Alex grinned. Still counting, huh? The human ambassador, Dr. Eliza Winters, shot Alex a look that clearly said, "Tone it down." Alex leaned back but kept the grin in place. "What Commander Reeves is trying to express," Dr. Winters said smoothly, "is that humanity has demonstrated our technological parity with council races. We're not asking for special treatment, just equal standing." "Equal standing is earned over centuries," the reptilian delegate insisted. "Not granted because of a single military victory, however. Impressive." "Perhaps a demonstration, then," Alex suggested innocently. The room fell silent. "A demonstration?" the amphibian delegate repeated cautiously. "Sure," Alex shrugged. "You don't believe we qualify for Tier 1 status? Let us prove it." Dr. Winters looked alarmed. "Commander, I don't think—" "Not a military demonstration," Alex clarified. "Though we'd be happy to arrange one if that's what the Council prefers." The collective tension in the room ratcheted up several notches. "What kind of demonstration did you have in mind?" Jello-Shot asked, body cycling through curious colors. Alex smiled. "A technological exchange. We show you ours, you show us yours, fair and square." "Out of the question!" the reptilian delegate hissed. "Tier 1 technologies are not shared with non-council races." "Then I guess we're at an impasse," Alex said, leaning back. "You won't grant us council status without proof of our technological level, but you won't let us demonstrate our technological level without council status." The representatives shifted uncomfortably. "Unless," Alex continued, "this isn't actually about technology at all. It's about the fact that we scare the hell out of you." Dr. Winters closed her eyes briefly, as if praying for patience. "Humanity does not scare us," the amphibian insisted, skin flushing a deeper blue. "We are simply concerned about proper protocols." "Uh-huh," Alex nodded. "Protocols that conveniently keep us from having any real say in galactic politics." Jello-Shot's body rippled in what Alex had learned to recognize as amusement. Perhaps the commander has a point. The Concordate's initial assessment of humanity was flawed. We underestimated them once. I suggest we not make the same mistake twice. The reptilian delegate's scales flattened against its body in agitation. "You cannot seriously be suggesting we bypass centuries of tradition because these primitives got lucky once." Alex raised an eyebrow. "Primitives?" "An unfortunate translation error," Dr. Winters cut in smoothly before Alex could respond further. "I'm sure Representative Sakok meant newcomers." "Of course," the reptilian said, not sounding convincing at all. Alex leaned forward again. "Here's the thing. You can call us primitives, newcomers, whatever helps you sleep at night. But we all know what happened when the Concordate tried to integrate us. We're not asking for special treatment. We're asking for recognition of the reality of our position." "And what position is that?" the amphibian asked coldly. "That whether you grant us council status or not, we're a power in this galaxy now. You can work with us as equals, or you can work against us and see how that goes." Alex smiled. It wasn't a friendly smile. "Personally, I'm fine either way." Dr. Winters shot Alex another look, but there was a hint of approval in it this time. Good cop, bad cop. They'd rehearsed this dance. "What humanity is offering," Dr. Winters said, taking control of the conversation, "is partnership, equal standing, equal responsibility. We're not interested in conquest or domination, but we won't accept second-class status either." The alien representatives exchanged glances, silent communications passing between species that had known each other for millennia. Finally, Jello-Shot spoke. "I move that we grant humanity provisional Tier 1 status, pending formal technological verification." "Seconded," chirped a bird-like representative that had been silent until now. The reptilian delegate hissed in displeasure but didn't object. "Then it is decided," Jello-Shot announced. "Welcome to the galactic community, humanity. May your integration be less explosive than your introduction." Alex grinned. No promises. 2 years later, Alex stood on the observation deck of the EDF Phoenix, Earth's first true interstellar battlecruiser. Below them, a massive space station took shape. The combined effort of human engineers and alien technology creating something new in the cosmos. "Impressive, isn't it?" a familiar gurgling voice said behind her. Alex turned to find Jello Shot hovering nearby. Its gelatinous body contained an especially designed anti-gravity harness that allowed it to move comfortably in human environments. "Tiskvarud," she greeted formally before breaking into a grin. "Or should I still call you Jello Shot?" The alien's body rippled in amusement. "I have grown accustomed to the nickname, though I still do not understand the reference. Trust me, you don't want to know. It involves college students and poor life choices. Ah, one that defy logical explanation." Alex laughed. "Those are the best kind." They stood in silence for a moment, watching the construction below. The Concordia station, named with deliberate irony, would serve as humanity's first official embassy to the galaxy at large, a neutral meeting ground where humans and aliens could interact without the baggage of Earth's gravity or atmospheric composition. "You know," Alex said eventually, "I always wondered why you didn't just bomb us from orbit. Would have been a lot easier than sending in those ships." Jello Shot's eye stalks extended in surprise. "Destroy your civilization? That would defeat the purpose of integration." "Which is?" "To add your uniqueness to our own. The Concordia doesn't conquer for territory or resources. We integrate for knowledge, for cultural and biological diversity." Sounds suspiciously like "we come in peace" talk from someone who sent 50,000 warships to my planet. 49,827, Jello Shot corrected reflexively. Alex grinned. "Still counting." The alien's body rippled in what might have been embarrassment. The ships were meant as a show of force, to encourage peaceful surrender. Actual combat was not anticipated. "Yeah, well, humans don't surrender easily." "So we discovered." Another comfortable silence fell between them. It was strange, Alex thought, how quickly former enemies could become, if not friends, then at least friendly acquaintances. "The Council is concerned," Jello Shot said finally. "About your expansion rate. 3 colonies in 2 years exceeds all projections." Alex shrugged. "We've been dreaming about the stars for centuries. Now that we're here, we're not wasting time." "Some species find such rapid expansion threatening?" "Let me guess. Our scaly friend from the reptilian delegation?" Jello Shot's body rippled in confirmation. "The Shukok Imperium has formally protested humanity's colonization of the Tau Ceti system. They claim prior interest." "Prior interest isn't the same as prior claim," Alex noted. "And we checked the registry. No formal claims had been filed." "True, but in galactic politics, unspoken understandings often carry as much weight as formal agreements." Alex turned from the viewport to face the alien directly. "Is this a friendly warning, Jello Shot? Or an official communication from the Concordat?" The alien's eye stalks wavered. "Can it not be both? The Concordat values its improving relations with humanity. We would not wish to see misunderstandings lead to conflict." "Misunderstandings like the one that led your fleet to our doorstep?" "Precisely." Alex nodded slowly. "I appreciate the heads up. But you should know, humanity isn't looking for a fight. We just won't back down from one either." "I am aware," Jello Shot said, a hint of dry humor in its translated voice. 19 minutes and 43 seconds aware, to be precise." Alex laughed. "You're never going to let that go, are you?" "It was a formative experience for our species. The first military defeat in over 4,000 years tends to leave an impression." "Well, let's hope it remains a unique event in our shared history." "Indeed," Jello Shot agreed. "The universe would likely not survive a second." The Vkr'lak Imperium, as it turned out, wasn't content with formal protests. 6 months after Alex's conversation with Jello Shot, 3 reptilian warships entered the Tau Ceti system, positioning themselves in orbit around the primary human colony world. Alex, now promoted to captain with her own command, found herself once again on the front lines of humanity's interstellar relations. "They're hailing us," her communications officer reported. "On screen," Alex ordered, straightening in her command chair. The Phoenix had been dispatched as soon as word of the Shukok incursion reached Earth. They'd made the journey in record time, pushing the new warp drive to its limits. The view screen flickered, revealing the scaled face of a Shukkuk commander. Unlike the diplomat Alex had met years earlier, this one wore elaborate armor that accentuated its predatory appearance. "This is Commander HFY of the Imperium Vessel Dominator," the reptilian announced without preamble. "You are trespassing on Shukkuk territory. Withdraw immediately or face consequences." Alex raised an eyebrow. "Funny, I was about to say the same thing to you. This is Captain Alexandra Reeves of the Earth Defense Force vessel Phoenix. You are in violation of Treaty Resolution 3097, which recognizes human sovereignty in the Tau Ceti system." "The Imperium does not recognize this resolution," Suk hissed. "This system has been marked for Vkr'lak expansion for centuries." "Marked but not claimed," Alex countered. "You had plenty of time to stake an official claim. You didn't. We did. Simple as that." The reptilian's hood flared in agitation. "The Imperium does not need to justify its territorial rights to primitives?" "There's that word again," Alex said with a sigh. "You guys really need to update your translation software." "You have one standard rotation to begin evacuation procedures," Shisufke continued as if she hadn't spoken. "After that, we will remove your presence by force if necessary." The communication cut off abruptly. "Well," Alex said into the silence that followed, "that was rude." Her executive officer, Commander Davis, stepped closer to her chair. "Orders, Captain?" Alex considered for a moment. "Scan their ships. I want to know exactly what we're dealing with." "Already done," her tactical officer reported. 3 Skok Dominion-class cruisers, heavy weaponry, but nothing we haven't seen before. Their shields are comparable to our own, possibly a generation behind. And the colony. 7,000 colonists, minimal defensive capabilities. They have a planetary shield, but it wouldn't withstand concentrated bombardment for long. Alex nodded. "Open a channel to Earth Command." Minutes later, she was staring at the grim face of Admiral Harrison. "The diplomatic corps is already lodging formal protests," he informed her. "But that won't help the colonists if the Vkr'lak decide to attack." "Permission to engage, sir?" Harrison frowned. "The Council has explicitly requested that we avoid military confrontation while they attempt to negotiate. With all due respect, sir, the Vkr'lak aren't here to negotiate. They've given us an ultimatum." "I'm aware, Captain, but we have to give diplomacy a chance." Alex leaned forward. "The Vkr'lak are counting on us to do exactly that. They think we won't risk interstellar war over a single colony. They think our victory against the Concordat was a fluke." "And was it?" Harrison asked quietly. Alex met his gaze steadily. "No, sir, it wasn't." A long silence stretched between them. "You have authorization to defend the colony," Harrison said finally, "but not to initiate hostilities. Am I clear?" "Crystal clear, sir. We'll only fire if fired upon." As the communication ended, Commander Davis moved to Alex's side. "They're going to fire on us, aren't they?" Alex smiled grimly. "Count on it. The Suzkik want to prove a point, to us and to the rest of the galaxy." "What point is that?" "That humanity's victory against the Concordat was luck, not skill. That we're not as dangerous as everyone thinks." Davis frowned. "And are we? As dangerous as they think?" Alex's smile turned predatory. "I guess we're about to find out." The Vkr'lak didn't wait the full rotation they'd promised. 6 hours after their ultimatum, the 3 cruisers broke orbit and began moving toward the colony world. "They're charging weapons," the tactical officer reported. "Shields up," Alex ordered calmly. "Move to intercept. Position us between them and the colony." The Phoenix glided smoothly into position, its massive bulk an imposing barrier between the reptilian ships and their target. "They're hailing us," communications reported. On screen, Commander Suffolk's scaled face appeared. Hood flared in what Alex recognized as a threat display. "Move aside, human! This is your final warning!" "I'm afraid I can't do that," Alex replied pleasantly. "This colony is under Earth's protection. Attack them, and you attack us." "So be it," the reptilian hissed. "Your species has been allowed to overstep for too long. It is time you learned your place in the Galactic Order." The screen went dark. "They've locked weapons on us," Tactical reported tensely. Alex leaned forward in her chair. "Hold position. Do not fire unless fired upon." "Captain." Davis said quietly. We're outnumbered 3-1. Alex grinned. Scared, Commander? Concerned, Captain. There's a difference. The Concordat outnumbered us thousands to 1, Alex reminded him. How'd that work out for them? That was an entire planetary defense force. We're one ship. One very advanced ship, Alex corrected, with a crew that knows exactly what they're doing. She raised her voice to address the entire bridge. Remember, people, we're not just fighting for this colony. We're fighting for humanity's place in the galaxy. Every species out there is watching to see if we were a one-hit wonder or the real deal. The tactical officer's console beeped urgently. They're firing. Evasive maneuvers, Alex ordered calmly. Return fire. Targeted disablement only. I want their weapons and engines offline, not their life support. The Phoenix banked sharply, avoiding the brunt of the first volley. Energy beams lanced through space, most missing their target, though a few struck the shields, causing them to flare brilliantly. Shields holding at 92%, reported the engineering officer. Target locked, Tactical announced. Firing. The Phoenix's weapons, a combination of traditional energy weapons and the quantum tunneling technology that had proved so effective against the Concordat, fired in precise sequence. Beams of concentrated energy struck the lead Vkr'lak vessel, followed by the distinctive flash of a QT warhead, bypassing shields entirely to materialize directly adjacent to the ship's main weapons array. The explosion was contained but effective. The Vkr'lak cruiser's weapons went dark. 1 down, Alex said with satisfaction. 2 to go. The remaining Vkr'lak ships adjusted their tactics, moving to flank the Phoenix. They're trying to surround us, Davis observed. Let them try, Alex replied. Helm, full impulse, attack pattern Delta. Tactical, prepare another QT strike. Target their propulsion systems this time. The Phoenix accelerated suddenly, throwing itself directly at one of the Vkr'lak cruisers in a move that seemed suicidal until, at the last moment, it veered sharply upward, bringing its main weapons to bear on the enemy vessel's underbelly. Fire! The Phoenix's weapons blazed, striking the Vkr'lak ship precisely where its shields were weakest. Simultaneously, a QT warhead materialized inside the enemy's engine room. The explosion was more pronounced this time, sending the reptilian vessel tumbling end over end, drive plasma venting into space. 2 down, Alex announced. And now Captain! The tactical officer interrupted urgently. Multiple warp signatures detected. Ships dropping out of warp all around us. Alex. Had the Vkr'lak called for reinforcements? On screen! The view screen shifted to show a dozen ships appearing around them. But they weren't Sake designs. They were Concordat vessels, Davis breathed. A lot of them. Before Alex could respond, a familiar gurgling voice came over the communications system. Captain Reeves, Jello-Shot's translated voice said, it appears you could use some assistance. Alex couldn't help but laugh. Representative Tskvarud, fancy meeting you here. The Concordat received word of the Vkr'lak aggression, Jello-Shot explained. As Earth's formal allies under the Mutual Defense Treaty, we felt obligated to respond. Mutual defense, huh? Alex grinned. And here I thought you just wanted to watch us kick reptilian butt. There may be an element of scientific curiosity as well, the alien admitted. The Concordat is most interested in observing human combat techniques firsthand, from the same side of the battlefield, preferably. The remaining Vkr'lak cruiser, suddenly finding itself vastly outnumbered, was already powering down its weapons. They're surrendering, Tactical reported with a hint of disappointment. Accept their surrender, Alex ordered. No need to make this uglier than it already is. As the Vkr'lak ship was secured, Jello-Shot requested permission to come aboard the Phoenix. Alex granted it immediately. 19 minutes and 15 seconds, Jello-Shot announced as it hovered into the Phoenix's conference room an hour later. Alex, who had been reviewing damage reports, looked up in confusion. What? The duration of your engagement with the Vkr'lak forces, the alien clarified. 19 minutes and 15 seconds, you are becoming more efficient. Alex laughed. Well, there were only 3 ships this time, not 50,000. 49,827, Jello-Shot corrected automatically, causing Alex to laugh harder. The alien's body rippled in what Alex had learned to recognize as its own version of amusement. The Concordat has been monitoring the situation closely, it continued more seriously. The Vkr'lak's actions were predictable. You knew they were going to attack. We suspected. The Imperium has been vocal in its opposition to human expansion. They see you as a threat to the established order. Alex leaned back in her chair. And are we? Jelloshot's body shifted colors, cycling through a pattern that indicated deep thought. Yes, it admitted finally. But perhaps not in the way they fear. Meaning? The galactic community has existed in relative stasis for millennia. Species rise, are integrated or contained, and the order continues. Humanity is different. Because we kicked your ass, Alex asked with a grin. Because you did so, and then chose not to exploit your victory, Jelloshot corrected. Any other species, upon defeating a Concordat integration fleet, would have demanded territorial concessions, technology transfers, reparations. We did get technology transfers, Alex pointed out. As part of mutual exchange agreements, not as spoils of war. There is a significant difference. The alien's eye stalks waved in emphasis. Humanity could have demanded much more than it did. Alex shrugged. We're not interested in conquest, just in having our place at the table. Precisely. And that is what the Vkr'lak and others fear most. Not that you will conquer them, but that you will change them. Change us all. Alex considered this. Is that why the Concordat showed up today? To show support for this change? Jelloshot's body rippled in affirmation. The Concordat has existed for millennia by adapting to new realities. We recognize that humanity represents a new paradigm in galactic politics. It is better to align with such change than resist it. And the Vkr'lak? They will learn, or they will become irrelevant. The Imperium's formal censure is already being prepared by the Council. Their aggression against a recognized human colony has cost them significant political capital. Alex smiled. So we win again. It would seem so. Jelloshot's body shifted to a more formal configuration. The Concordat wishes to propose an expansion of our existing treaties, joint defense pacts, technology research initiatives, cultural exchange programs. Sounds like you're courting us, Alex observed with amusement. In a manner of speaking, yes. The future of the galaxy will be shaped by those who adapt to humanity's presence. The Concordat intends to be at the forefront of that adaptation. Alex leaned forward, suddenly serious. Let me ask you something, Jelloshot. That day, when your fleet came to Earth, what would you have done if we'd surrendered? The alien was silent for a long moment, its body cycling through colors that Alex couldn't fully interpret. Integration would have proceeded according to standard protocols, it said finally. Your technology would have been assimilated, your culture preserved in data archives, your biological uniqueness added to the Concordat's collective. And humanity itself would have continued, as all integrated species do, under Concordat guidance and control. As slaves, you mean? Jelloshot's body rippled in what might have been discomfort. The Concordat does not recognize this concept. Integrated species are valued components of the collective.
Components, Alex repeated. Not equals. Not until humanity forced the issue, no, the alien admitted. Your resistance changed everything. Alex nodded slowly. 19 minutes and 43 seconds that changed the galaxy. Indeed, though today it was 19 minutes and 15 seconds. Jelloshot's body rippled in what Alex had come to recognize as its version of a smile. You are improving. We're just getting started, Alex promised. Just wait until you see what humanity does in the next 19 minutes. In the years that followed, humanity's expansion continued, not as conquerors, but as partners. The Tau Ceti incident became a turning point in galactic politics, the moment when the old order truly began to give way to the new. The Vkr'lak Imperium, facing censure and isolation, eventually moderated its stance. The reptilians remained cautious of human influence, but no longer openly hostile. The Concordat's alliance with Earth strengthened, bringing technological and cultural exchange that benefited both sides. And throughout the galaxy, a new expression entered the diplomatic lexicon of dozens of species. 19 minutes, meaning a complete and unexpected reversal of fortune. As in, The trade negotiations were proceeding normally until the human representative arrived. Then everything went 19 minutes. Or, be careful in your dealings with Earth. What looks like an easy victory can go 19 minutes very quickly. Captain Alexandra Reeves, eventually promoted to Admiral and appointed as humanity's military representative to the Galactic Council, found the expression endlessly amusing, especially when used by the Concordat representatives, who still, years later, would correct anyone who rounded up to 20 minutes. 19 minutes and 43 seconds, they would insist pedantically. Details matter. And they did matter. Those 19 minutes and 43 seconds had changed everything, had shown the galaxy that predictions and statistics and millennia of experience could be rendered meaningless by human ingenuity and determination. The Alien Council had predicted human defeat in hours. Humans had needed minutes. And the galaxy would never be the same. In a quiet corner of the Grand Concordat Embassy on Earth, Admiral Alexandra Reeves stood beside the gelatinous form of her old acquaintance, Jello Shot, now elevated to High Representative Tiska Varud of the Concordat's diplomatic corps. "Did you ever think we'd end up here?" Alex asked, gazing out at the sprawling diplomatic complex. Delegates from over 100 species mingled in the gardens below, the 10th anniversary celebration of the Galactic Inclusion Pact in full swing.
Statistically speaking, the alien burbled, the probability was approximately 0.0000034%. Alex laughed. "Still calculating everything, I see." "It is our nature," Jello Shot admitted. "Though I have learned to appreciate the unpredictability of human intuition." "Took you long enough." "Precisely 19 minutes and 43 seconds, in fact," the alien replied, its body rippling with amusement. Alex rolled her eyes but couldn't suppress a smile. The joke had become something of a tradition between them over the years. "The new exploration initiative passed the council vote," Jello Shot informed her, shifting to a more serious tone. 17 species have committed resources. The first joint expedition launches next month. "To unexplored space beyond the galactic rim," Alex mused. 10 years ago you were trying to integrate us. Now we're leading joint expeditions. The universe is full of surprises." "Speaking of surprises," Alex said, nodding toward the entrance where a delegation of Vkr'lak representatives was arriving, their scales gleaming in elaborate ceremonial patterns. "I never thought I'd see them at one of these functions." "The Imperium has adapted," Jello Shot observed. "As we all have." The lead Vkr'lak, none other than High Commander Sufk, now their senior diplomatic envoy, noticed them watching and inclined his head in a formal greeting. Alex returned the gesture with precise etiquette, hiding her amusement. The reptilian who had once called humans primitives now treated her with elaborate courtesy. "You know," Alex said thoughtfully as the Vkr'lak moved on, "I've commanded starships, fought battles, negotiated treaties, but I still don't know what we look like to all of you. Why did the Concordat really come to Earth that day? What did you see in us that made integration so important?" Jello Shot's body cycled through colors that indicated thoughtful consideration. Finally, its translator hummed to life. "Potential," it said simply. "Raw, untamed potential. Most species reach a plateau in their development. They find an equilibrium and remain there, evolving slowly if at all. Humanity never stopped. You went from primitive combustion engines to faster-than-light travel in less than 300 years. Your rate of technological advancement was concerning enough to send 50,000 ships. 49,827, Jello Shot corrected reflexively, then rippled in embarrassment when Alex laughed. "And yes, the Concordat operates on very long timescales. Our predictive models indicated that left unchecked, humanity would surpass all known civilizations within 5 centuries. Integration seemed the prudent course. And now? Now we adapt. We learn. We change together." The alien's body shifted, extending a gelatinous pseudopod in a gesture that mimicked a human toast. "To the next 19 minutes. Alex raised her glass. "And whatever comes after." Below them, in the gardens of the embassy, representatives of 100 worlds continued their celebrations, the evening sky of Earth sparkling with the lights of orbiting stations and visiting ships. The galaxy had changed, was still changing, all because of 19 minutes and 43 seconds when humanity had refused to follow the predicted script. As a junior lieutenant approached with reports requiring her attention, Admiral Reeves took one last look at the gathering, at the future being built one conversation, one treaty, one cultural exchange at a time. Not bad, she murmured to herself, for primitives. And somewhere in the vast calculations of the universe, statistics and probabilities shifted once again, accommodating the wonderful, terrible, magnificent unpredictability of the species called human. The end. "You've got to be kidding me," Captain Vkr'lak said, her 4 compound eyes blinking in rapid succession as she stared at the data readout. "The humans did what now?" Lieutenant Zix shuffled uncomfortably, all 6 of his appendages shifting with nervous energy. "They, requested permission to build a trade outpost on Nexus 9, right in the middle of Krell territory. And the Krell agreed?" Vkr'lak's mandibles clicked in what her species considered laughter. The same Krell who disintegrated the Plorbian ambassador last cycle for suggesting they share mining rights to a single asteroid? "Not only agreed, Captain," Zix continued, "they offered to help with construction." The captain's antennae drooped in disbelief. How in the 7 nebulae did the humans manage that? Did they threaten them? Blackmail? Mind control? She paused, considering. "Actually, I've heard rumors they can do that last one." "No, they—" Zix hesitated, looking at his datapad. "They brought something called hot sauce to the negotiation. Humanity's entry into the galactic community had been largely unremarkable at first. A mid-tier species from a somewhat forgettable solar system, humans lacked many of the advantages other species had evolved. No natural armor like the Krell, no telepathic abilities like the Yisekt, no remarkable longevity like the Elders. Not particularly strong, fast, or technologically advanced compared to the top-tier civilizations. Yet somehow, within just 3 standard cycles, they had established outposts in 17 different systems, formed trade agreements with 22 species, including 4 that had previously refused to deal with anyone, and secured themselves a seat on the Galactic Council, a privilege typically reserved for species that had been spacefaring for at least 100 cycles. And nobody seemed particularly alarmed by any of this. "Did you hear about what happened in the Andromeda outpost last week?" Commander Ral Teak asked, sliding into the seat across from his old academy friend, Admiral Voxpax. The Admiral, a hulking mass of crystalline structures that occasionally emitted different colored lights, pulsed a curious blue. "I've been occupied with the Centauri dispute. What transpired?" "A human delegation visited to discuss technological exchange with the Hive." The Admiral's crystals flashed red in alarm. "The Hive? The same Hive that consumes any organic matter that enters their territory?" "The very same," Raltic confirmed, taking a sip of his nutrient solution. "Not only did the humans leave undigested, but they also secured exclusive rights to harvest solar energy in 3 systems under Hive protection." "How?" The Admiral's voice echoed with disbelief. "They showed the Hive Queen something called cat videos. The Galactic Central Intelligence Agency, GCIA, had a special division dedicated to monitoring potential threats to interstellar peace, species with rapid militarization, civilizations developing planet-killer technology, aggressive expansionists. Humans were not on their watch list. Should they be?" asked Analyst First Class Corvin, a new transfer from the Diplomatic Corps. "Their expansion rate is unprecedented." Director Urizan, a veteran of 3 interstellar conflicts, waved a dismissive tentacle. "They're harmless. Sure, they're everywhere now, but have you seen them? Soft exteriors, no natural weapons. They need environmental suits on 70% of habitable planets. Half of them can barely operate their own technology." "But sir, they've established strategic positions in every major system, formed alliances with historically isolationist species, and somehow acquired technology from civilizations that have refused to share with even their oldest allies." "Yes, but they did it all while wearing those ridiculous Hawaiian shirts and offering everyone something called beer. It's hardly the behavior of a conquering force." Corvin wasn't convinced. "What about the incident with the Drox Armada?" The director's skin changed from its usual confident purple to a concerned greenish hue. "That was unusual, I admit." The Drox, a warlike species known for their planet-crushing fleet, had surrounded Earth with 50 dreadnoughts in what should have been a quick annexation. 6 hours later, the Drox commander had surrendered unconditionally, gifted humans 3 habitable moons as reparations, and agreed to serve as Earth's defensive fleet for the next 50 cycles. When questioned, the commander would only say, "They showed us something called democracy. We had no defense against it." "I don't trust them," Fleet Admiral Krex growled, pacing the command deck of the Galactic Council's flagship, Eternal Vigilance. A species doesn't go from discovering faster-than-light travel to having colonies in 27 systems within a decade without some kind of sinister agenda. High Counselor Zantara, representative of the ancient and revered Lumidian species, watched the Admiral with patient amusement. "And yet in all that expansion, how many conflicts have humans initiated?" Krex stopped pacing. "Well, none, technically. And how many established species have they displaced or threatened?" "None that we know of," Krex admitted reluctantly. "In fact," Zantara continued, "the Forgotten Reaches are now experiencing their longest period of peace in recorded history, are they not? Ever since the humans established their entertainment hub there." "It's called Las Vegas, too," Krex muttered. "And yes, the pirate factions and warring clans have temporarily ceased hostilities, but not temporarily, Admiral. The Blood Oath Collective and the Nova Raiders signed a permanent peace treaty last month. They're now jointly operating something called a casino." Krex's scales rippled in frustration. "That's my point! It's not natural! The Nova Raiders have been slaughtering anyone who entered their territory for millennia. Now they're serving something called cocktails to tourists? There has to be mind control involved." Zantara's luminous form shimmered with what might have been laughter. "We've tested for every known form of manipulation. Psionic, chemical, technological, nothing. The humans are just persuasive." "Nobody's that persuasive," Krex insisted. "Perhaps you should speak with Ambassador Wilson. The human delegation is hosting what they call a barbecue tonight. I found their pulled pork quite illuminating during our last negotiation." "The thing about humans," said Vkr'lak, a renowned xenobiologist specializing in emergent sentient species, "is that they're evolutionary opportunists in the most fascinating way." Professor Yen Li, who had dedicated 300 cycles to studying the psychology of spacefaring civilizations, tilted her eye stalks in curiosity. "How so?" "Most apex species evolve specific advantages. The Krell's armored exoskeletons, our own telepathic abilities, the Volhan's toxic secretions, clear evolutionary paths to dominance. Humans didn't do that." "They seem remarkably average in most respects," Yen Li agreed. "Exactly!" Vkr'lak's excitement caused his bioluminescent patches to pulse brightly. Instead of developing one overwhelming advantage, they developed incredible adaptability. They can survive in almost any environment with minimal technological assistance. They can eat nearly anything. I've seen them willingly consume substances that would dissolve most species' digestive systems for pleasure. "I attended one of their spicy food challenges," Yen Li recalled with a shudder. "Horrifying, but brilliant. And it's not just physical adaptability, it's cultural, technological, psychological. They absorb and integrate ideas at an alarming rate. Something that would cause generational conflict in other species gets incorporated into human culture within years, sometimes months." Yen Li's eye stalk swiveled in concern. "That sounds potentially dangerous." "It would be if they were conquerors. But that's the fascinating part. They don't seem interested in conquest. They're interested in, well, everything. Trade, culture, knowledge, experiences. They call it cultural exchange, but it's really more like cultural absorption. They take the most effective elements from every species they encounter and somehow make it their own." "Is that why they've been so successful in their diplomatic endeavors?" Vkr'lak's color shifted to the deep blue of scholarly certainty. "Partially. But I think it's something even more fundamental. Humans are the only known species that evolved as persistent hunters. I'm not familiar with the term. Before they developed significant technology, humans hunted by literally chasing prey until it collapsed from exhaustion. They're not the strongest or fastest, but they just don't stop. They can maintain moderate physical activity for longer than any other known sentient species. They call it endurance hunting. Yen Li processed this with growing concern. And you believe this trait manifests in their approach to galactic diplomacy? I believe, Vkr'lak said solemnly, that humans don't need to conquer because they simply persist until they get what they want. Why fight a war when you can just keep showing up to negotiations with new proposals until your opponent gives in out of sheer exhaustion? That's disturbing. It gets worse. They appear to have applied this same persistent approach to everything they do. Their scientific progress isn't based on revolutionary leaps like most species, but on relentless, incremental improvements. Their cultural influence doesn't come from overwhelming superiority, but from continuous exposure. They don't need to force their way into galactic politics because they just keep showing up until everyone accepts them as if they've always been there. You make them sound like some kind of infection, Yen Li said. More like a beneficial symbiotic organism that you don't notice until it's completely integrated into your biology, Vkr'lak corrected. And by then, removing it would be more harmful than letting it remain. Ambassador Kevin Riley loved his job. As Earth's diplomatic representative to the Galactic Council, he spent his days introducing alien species to humanity's finest achievements: barbecue, reality TV, democracy, cat videos, and the concept of weekend getaways. I still don't understand, said Vkr'lak, the reptilian representative of the Krell Dominion, as they walked through the human embassy's garden. Your species has the technology to destroy planets, yet you choose to use it to make ice cream? Not exactly the same technology, Kevin explained patiently. Though I suppose the basic principles of flash freezing have applications in both areas. Would you like to try some? We've created a special version that works with your biochemistry. Vkr'lak's scaled brow furrowed in suspicion. This isn't another attempt to form a binding alliance through shared consumption rituals, is it? Because the High Command is still adjusting to the Pizza Night treaty obligations. Kevin laughed. No treaties today, just ice cream. Vanilla for your first try, I think. Chocolate can be a bit intense for newcomers. As Vkr'lak cautiously accepted the frozen treat, Kevin's assistant, Diplomatic Officer Lee, approached with a data tablet. Sir, we've received a priority communication from Earth. The Galactic Intelligence Committee has formally requested information about humanity's strategic expansion initiative. They're suggesting our rapid integration into galactic society follows a suspicious pattern. Kevin sighed, watching as Vkr'lak's expression shifted from suspicion to wonder at the first taste of ice cream. Send the standard response package. Cultural exchange materials, trade benefits analysis, and the documentary series on human history. All 47 hours of it? Lee asked. Yes, also include the specialty package on human creativity and art, the complete works of Shakespeare, a millennium of musical recordings, and the entire collection of cat videos. Sir, the last time we sent that much data, the Volhan Central Intelligence spent 3 months analyzing it for hidden messages. Exactly, Kevin said with a small smile. By the time they realize there are no hidden messages, they'll have developed an appreciation for Shakespeare and cat videos. Cultural integration achieved. Vkr'lak, now enthusiastically devouring his third cup of ice cream, looked up. This is remarkable. We must establish an ice cream production facility in Krell space immediately. Would Earth be amenable to a technology exchange? Kevin's smile widened. I believe we could arrange something. Perhaps we could discuss it over a barbecue this evening. I'm introducing the Yeast ambassador to Brisket. In a secure meeting room deep within the Galactic Council headquarters, representatives from the 12 most powerful civilizations gathered for an emergency session. The evidence is undeniable, Grand Strategist Vex of the militaristic phalange declared, projecting a star map showing human expansion over the past decade. They've established positions in every strategically valuable system without firing a single shot. They've integrated themselves into our economic systems to such a degree that removing them would cause catastrophic market collapses in at least 7 sectors, added Financial Overseer Quirtal of the Commerce Collective. High Inquisitor Zal of the Psionic Conclave rubbed his temples in frustration. We've subjected them to every form of mental analysis in our arsenal. They genuinely don't appear to have any malicious intent. They're just enthusiastically friendly. Too friendly, muttered Warlord Kragath of the Drox Armada, still smarting from their embarrassing surrender to Earth. Nobody is that nice without ulterior motives. Elder Luminous of the Ancient Observers, whose species had watched civilizations rise and fall for millions of years, pulsed gently before speaking. Perhaps we're approaching this from the wrong perspective. What if humans aren't conquering the galaxy through traditional means, but simply colonizing it culturally? Explain, demanded Vex. Throughout our observations of sentient evolution, we've seen countless species rise to dominance through physical prowess, technological superiority, or overwhelming numbers. Humans appear to be using a different strategy entirely. They're making themselves indispensable, not through force or fear, but through convenience and entertainment. That's absurd, Kragath scoffed. No species becomes a galactic power by being entertaining. And yet, Elder Luminous continued, in just 1 decade, how many of your civilizations have adopted human practices? How many of you now engage in their weekend concept? How many have established coffee shops in your capitals? How many of your young now consume human entertainment media? An uncomfortable silence fell over the room. My offspring have requested permission to attend something called summer camp on a human colony, admitted Supreme Commander Thrax of the Unified Defense Force, looking embarrassed. The Commerce Collective has standardized on the casual Friday concept, Queertall added reluctantly. The Psionic Conclave has installed several vending machines in our meditation halls, Zal said quietly. Elder Luminous's glow intensified. You see, without firing a weapon or making a single threat, humans have fundamentally altered your civilization's daily operations. They've achieved through cultural exchange what military conquest could never accomplish: voluntary integration. Are you suggesting they're deliberately colonizing us through snack foods and entertainment? Vex asked incredulously. I'm suggesting, Elder Luminous replied, that humans may have evolved a form of conquest so subtle that neither they nor their victims recognize it as conquest at all. Lieutenant Commander Olivia Jang didn't consider herself a conqueror. As the scientific liaison to the Galactic Research Collective, her job was to facilitate the exchange of knowledge between Earth and other civilizations. Today, that meant explaining the concept of peer review to the collective's high researchers. So you intentionally subject your scientific findings to criticism before publication? Asked Chief Researcher Maldak, his gelatinous form rippling with confusion. Why would you expose your work to potential rejection? It strengthens the research, Olivia explained. By inviting others to find flaws in our methodology or conclusions, we improve the overall quality of our science. But doesn't this create inefficiency? The collective has always operated on the principle that the most senior researcher's conclusion is automatically correct. With respect, that's probably why your fusion technology has hit a development plateau, Olivia said gently. Innovation often comes from unexpected sources. Sometimes the newest researcher sees something the veterans miss. Maldak absorbed this in thoughtful silence. Finally, his central communication node pulsed. You are suggesting we restructure our entire research hierarchy based on this peer review concept? I'm suggesting you try it as an experiment, Olivia said with a smile. Apply the scientific method to your scientific methodology. Fascinating, Maldak admitted. And this approach has yielded significant advances in human science. It's how we went from horse-drawn carriages to faster-than-light travel in less than 500 years. The assembled researchers rippled in astonishment. For most galactic species, such progress had taken millennia. We will consider implementing a trial program, Maldak announced. Perhaps beginning with our energy research division? Excellent, Olivia said. And while your researchers adjust to the new system, Earth would be happy to share some of our recent breakthroughs in fusion containment. As a gesture of scientific goodwill, of course. Most generous, Maldak agreed. In exchange, perhaps we could offer access to our gravitational manipulation research. That would be wonderful, Olivia said, careful not to show too much excitement. Earth scientists had been trying to get access to that research for years. We could discuss the details over lunch. I've brought samples of a human specialty called sushi. They're doing it again, security analyst Vkr'lak reported, bursting into Director Urizon's office without announcement. The director looked up from his reports with annoyance. The humans? What now? They've established an outpost on the toxic moon of HFY 7. That barren wasteland? Why would they want? They're calling it an extreme sports destination. They're bringing tourists there to jump off cliffs in protective suits. For fun. The director's skin shifted to a confused yellow. That's bizarre but hardly concerning from a security perspective. That's not all, Vkr'lak continued. The moon is directly adjacent to the void sector, which has been off-limits due to spatial anomalies that destroy any ship that enters. Yes, I'm aware of the navigation hazards. What's your point? The humans have somehow mapped safe passages through the anomalies. They're using them for something called cosmic whitewater rafting. And in the process, they've established the first viable trade route to the other side of the void. The director's yellow deepened to an alarmed orange. That's impossible. We've lost thousands of ships attempting to map the void. Apparently, they use something called extreme sports enthusiasts, who were totally willing to risk it for the awesome footage, dude. And now they control the only safe passage through a previously impassable sector of space, the director concluded, his skin now pulsing a concerned red. A sector that happens to separate the unified territories from the outer rim civilizations. Yes, sir. They're charging a modest toll for passage and providing what they call expert guides. Several trading companies have already booked transit. The director slumped back in his chair. So they've successfully established control over a strategic choke point, not through military action, but by turning it into a tourist attraction. They're also selling T-shirts that say, "I survived the Void Run," Vkr'lak added helpfully. The Galactic Council's annual diplomatic banquet was in full swing, with representatives from over 200 civilizations mingling in the Grand Hall of Unity Station. In one corner, Admiral Krex was deep in conversation with Kevin Riley, the human ambassador. "I must admit," Krex said grudgingly, "your species has accomplished remarkable things in a very short time." Kevin smiled modestly. "We're just happy to be part of the galactic community. There's so much we can learn from each other." Indeed, though I find it curious how central humans have become to so many interspecies operations. The new Galactic Trade Network runs on human-designed protocols. The Unified Defense Force has adopted human command structures. Even the Council's meeting procedures now include something called coffee breaks. Caffeine is a wonderful productivity enhancer for many species, Kevin observed innocently. Though we've created substitute versions for those with incompatible biochemistry. Krex narrowed his reptilian eyes. That's another thing. You've created specialized versions of human food, entertainment, and technology for nearly every known species. The resources required for such customization must be enormous. We consider it a worthwhile investment in galactic friendship. Friendship, Krex repeated skeptically. Is that what you call it when you establish vital outposts in every strategically significant system? When you create economic dependencies through specialized trade? When you insert your cultural practices into every aspect of galactic society? Kevin's smile didn't waver. Admiral, if I wanted to conquer the galaxy, I wouldn't bring barbecue sauce and cat videos. I'd bring battleships. Perhaps, Krex admitted. But I find it telling that within a decade of humanity's arrival, we're all drinking your coffee, watching your entertainment, using your communication protocols, and adopting your scientific methodologies. If that's not conquest, it's certainly influence. Cultural exchange is a two-way street, Admiral. Earth has embraced countless alien concepts. Our fashion now incorporates Lumidian light-responsive fabrics. Our architecture has been revolutionized by Krell structural principles. Our music has been transformed by Yiskth harmonic theory. Yes, you take the best of every culture you encounter and somehow make it distinctly human in the process, Krex observed. Like a Cultural parasite that strengthens its host while simultaneously changing it? Kevin laughed. That's a rather uncharitable comparison. We prefer to think of it as cross-pollination. Everyone benefits. And yet somehow humans always seem to benefit just a little bit more, Krex said. The new trade route through the void sector being a prime example. An unexpected discovery by extreme sports enthusiasts that happen to have significant economic implications, Kevin said with a shrug. Would you prefer the route remain closed? We're happy to share the navigational data with all Council species, for a fee. A modest one, to cover the costs of the mapping expedition and ongoing safety monitoring, Kevin countered smoothly. But if the Council wishes to nationalize the route, Earth would certainly respect that decision. Krex's scales rippled in frustration. And lose the expertise of the only pilots who have successfully navigated it multiple times? That would be impractical. Merely offering options, Admiral. Kevin raised his glass. To galactic cooperation? After a moment's hesitation, Krex raised his own glass. To cooperation, he agreed, still not entirely convinced it wasn't somehow a form of surrender. In the research laboratory of the Xenological Institute, Professor Yen Li and her colleague Vkr'lak were reviewing their findings on human integration patterns. The data is conclusive, Yen Li said, projecting a complex network diagram showing interspecies connections before and after human contact. Humanity has established itself as a central node in nearly every significant galactic network. Trade, diplomacy, scientific research, cultural exchange, even military collaboration. And they've done it all without triggering anyone's conquest protocols, Vkr'lak marveled. No species recognizes them as a threat because they don't behave like traditional conquerors. That may be the most brilliant aspect of their strategy, Yen Li agreed. They've essentially hacked the galactic community by exploiting a blind spot in our collective threat assessment. We're programmed to recognize conquest through force, not through friendship. But is it really conquest if everyone benefits? Vkr'lak wondered. Human integration has coincided with the longest period of galactic peace in recorded history. Trade is flourishing. Scientific advancement has accelerated across all participating civilizations. Even traditionally isolationist species are now engaging in cultural exchange. That's what makes it so insidious, Yen Li insisted. The benefits are real, which makes resistance seem irrational. Why would anyone oppose something that improves their quality of life? But the long-term result is the same as conquest. Human systems, human values, and human influence have become central to galactic civilization. Vkr'lak's bioluminescence pulsed thoughtfully. Perhaps we're overthinking this. What if humans aren't executing some grand strategy? What if this is simply how they naturally operate? Their evolutionary history as social persistence hunters might predispose them to this exact approach. Make friends, share resources, establish mutual dependencies. Whether it's intentional or instinctual hardly matters, Yen Li argued. The outcome is the same. Humanity has positioned itself as essential to galactic operation within a single decade. At this rate, what will their influence be in a century? A millennium? Perhaps that's what we should be studying, Vkr'lak suggested. Not how to counter human influence, but how to ensure it remains beneficial to all. If their integration is inevitable, and our data suggests it is, then our focus should be on symbiosis rather than resistance. Yen Li's eye stalks drooped in resignation. You may be right, though I find it somewhat alarming that I'm already thinking in such human terms, seeking win-win scenarios rather than competitive advantage. I've been drinking coffee every morning, Vkr'lak admitted sheepishly, and I've installed something called streaming services in my dwelling. I attended a barbecue last weekend, Yen Li confessed. It was enjoyable. They looked at each other in silence, both recognizing they were living proof of their own research conclusions. I suppose, Vkr'lak said finally, we should prepare our findings for peer review. Captain Thrix Val stood on the observation deck of her ship, the Galactic Observer, watching as the newly established human trade outpost on Nexus 9 bustled with activity. What had started as a small diplomatic mission just 3 months ago had blossomed into a thriving hub where Krell warriors, notoriously hostile to all other species, now mingled freely with traders from across the galaxy. "It doesn't make sense," she muttered to Lieutenant Zix, who stood beside her. "The Krell have maintained strict isolation for centuries. Now they're hosting interspecies cultural festivals. They've developed quite an enthusiasm for human cuisine," Zix noted. "Particularly something called barbecue ribs, and several Krell warriors have become collectors of human musical recordings. Something called heavy metal apparently resonates with their cultural aesthetics. But don't they see what's happening? Their entire society is being transformed through these seemingly innocent cultural exchanges." Zix's appendages shifted in the equivalent of a shrug. "Is transformation necessarily conquest, Captain? The Krell maintain their sovereignty, their military, their traditions. They've simply added to them, and in the process, become dependent on human trade, human technology, human entertainment," Vkr'lak pointed out. "Strategic dependency is the most effective form of control." "Perhaps," Zix conceded. "Though I must admit I've begun listening to human music myself. Their harmonic structures are quite fascinating." Vkr'lak's mandibles clicked in exasperation. "Not you too, Lieutenant. I've also been experimenting with their coffee stimulant. It significantly improves my productivity during early shift rotations." Before Vkr'lak could respond, her communication implant chimed. "Captain, this is Commander Orks from Central Command. We've received intelligence that the human delegation is planning to introduce something called pizza to the Void Dwellers." Vkr'lak's compound eyes blinked rapidly in alarm. "The Void Dwellers have never engaged in diplomacy with any species. They consume any organic matter that enters their domain. Apparently humans have discovered that the Void Dwellers' atmospheric processing resembles the effects of a wood-fired oven. They believe this creates the perfect pizza-making environment and have proposed a culinary exchange." "This is madness," Vkr'lak declared. "The Void Dwellers will consume them on sight." "That's just it, Captain. Preliminary reports indicate the Void Dwellers have already accepted the invitation. They've granted the human delegation safe passage to their central processing hub." Vkr'lak's antennae drooped in defeat. If they've managed to charm the Void Dwellers with the promise of pizza, then it's over. Humanity has effectively conquered the galaxy without firing a single shot. "Conquered, Captain? Or united it in ways we never imagined possible?" Zix suggested. "Before humans arrived, the Galactic Council spent centuries trying to establish peaceful contact with the Void Dwellers. Humans accomplished it with cheese and tomato sauce. That's precisely what terrifies me, Lieutenant. A species that can achieve through cuisine and entertainment what the combined diplomatic efforts of the galaxy's oldest civilizations failed to accomplish with millennia of careful negotiation is formidable beyond measure." "Perhaps we've been approaching galactic unity from the wrong direction all along," Zix mused. "Perhaps the path to peace isn't through grand treaties and formal alliances, but through pizza parties and cultural exchange." Vkr'lak stared out at the bustling outpost, watching as Krell warriors enthusiastically explained their traditional battle rituals to a group of fascinated human tourists. "If this is conquest," she said finally, "it's the strangest form I've ever witnessed." The emergency session of the Galactic Security Council had been in progress for 6 hours, with representatives from the 12 most powerful civilizations debating what many were now calling the human question. "The evidence is incontrovertible," Grand Strategist Vex insisted. "Through a series of seemingly benign cultural, economic, and diplomatic initiatives, humanity has established unprecedented influence throughout the galaxy. They now control key trade routes, have integrated their technology into our most critical systems, and have formed alliances with species that have historically been hostile to all outside contact. Including the Void Dwellers," added Warlord Vkr'lak, still sounding incredulous, "who are now exporting something called void-fired pizza to 17 systems. The question before us High Inquisitor Zal said, is whether this constitutes a security threat that requires intervention. What would intervention even look like? Asked Financial Overseer Queertall. We can hardly declare war on humanity for being friendly and offering useful services that everyone voluntarily adopts. Perhaps restrictions on their expansion, suggested Supreme Commander Thrax. Limits on new outposts and colonies? Difficult to justify under Council law, Queertall pointed out. They haven't violated any regulations. In fact, they've been meticulously compliant with all licensing requirements, environmental protocols, and diplomatic procedures. Too compliant, Vex said darkly. As if they studied our regulations specifically to identify the optimal paths for integration without triggering security concerns. Which would be intelligent strategic planning? Queertall suggested. Hardly a crime. Before the debate could continue, the chamber doors opened to admit Elder Luminous, who glided to the center of the room, his ancient form glowing with unusual intensity. Forgive my interruption, the elder said, but I believe I can provide context that may assist your deliberations. The floor recognizes Elder Luminous of the Ancient Observers, Zal announced formally. My species has witnessed the rise and fall of countless civilizations over millions of years, Elder Luminous began. We have observed patterns of conquest, collaboration, and coexistence across thousands of species. What humanity is doing is neither new nor unique. It is simply exceptionally efficient. Explain, demanded Vex. Throughout galactic history, lasting influence has never been established through force alone. The civilizations that endure are those that make themselves essential, those whose contributions to other species are so valuable that their presence becomes not just accepted, but desired. You're suggesting humanity's strategy is deliberate? Kregoth asked. I'm suggesting it is instinctive, Elder Luminous corrected. Based on our analysis of human history, this is simply how they operate. They are, by nature, collectors and integrators of ideas. They take concepts from every culture they encounter, adapt them to their own needs, and then share the hybrid results with everyone else. And in the process, make themselves central to the exchange, Zal noted. Precisely. But here is what you must understand. This is not conquest as you conceive it. Humans don't want to rule the galaxy. They want to participate in it. They want to trade, learn, share, and connect. The influence they accumulate is a side effect, not the primary goal. A convenient interpretation, Vex said skeptically. It is the accurate one, Elder Luminous insisted. My species performed a comprehensive analysis of human decision patterns. When given choices between options that maximize control versus options that maximize connection, they consistently choose connection, even when it reduces their strategic advantage. Then what do you suggest, Elder? Asked Zal. Should we simply allow their influence to continue unchecked? Not unchecked, Elder Luminous replied. But rather than viewing them as conquerors to be contained, recognize them as catalysts to be directed. Humanity's greatest strength is not their technology or their diplomatic skill. It's their capacity to make connections where none existed before. They are, in essence, the galaxy's first truly collaborative apex predator. Collaborative apex predator? Vex repeated incredulously. That's a contradiction in terms. For most species, yes, Elder Luminous agreed. But humans have evolved a unique approach to dominance. They don't eliminate competition. They convert it into cooperation. They don't destroy resources. They find ways to share and expand them. They hunt not through violence but through persistence and mutual benefit. The council members exchanged troubled glances. So your recommendation? Zal prompted. Engagement rather than containment, Elder Luminous said. Establish a collaborative oversight framework that acknowledges humanity's integrative role while ensuring all species maintain their sovereignty and cultural identity. After much debate, the Galactic Security Council established the Interspecies Cultural Integration Directive, a framework designed not to limit human expansion, but to ensure it remained beneficial to all participating civilizations. 5 years later, Captain Thrix Val found herself once again on the observation deck of her ship, this time orbiting Earth itself. She had been selected as the Arthropod Confederation's representative to the first Galactic Cultural Summit. hosted on humanity's homeworld. It's not what I expected, she admitted to Lieutenant Zix, who had accompanied her. I thought it would be more homogenized. Earth's surface displayed an astonishing diversity of environments, architecture, and cultural expressions, many clearly influenced by extraterrestrial designs but blended with distinctly human elements. They've incorporated architectural principles from 17 different species, Zix noted, consulting his datapad, but always adapted to their own aesthetic sensibilities and practical needs. Even their major cities maintain distinct cultural identities, Vkr'lak observed. They don't seem interested in standardization at all. That may be the key to their success, suggested a voice behind them. They turned to find Kevin Riley, now serving as Earth's Minister of Interstellar Cultural Affairs, approaching with a smile. Welcome to Earth, he said warmly. I hope your journey was comfortable. Most educational, Vkr'lak replied formally. Though I admit I remain confused about your species' approach to galactic integration. How so? Kevin asked. Most expanding civilizations seek to impose their culture on others. You seem to do the opposite. You adopt elements from everyone else. And in the process, make our own culture more resilient, Kevin explained. Diversity isn't just a moral good for humans, it's a practical advantage. The more perspectives we incorporate, the more adaptable we become. Yet somehow, no matter how many alien influences you absorb, you remain distinctly human, Vkr'lak noted. It's quite remarkable. Is it so different from your own evolution, Captain? Your species began as individual insects before developing collective behaviors. You didn't lose your individual characteristics in the process. You integrated them into something greater than the sum of its parts. Vkr'lak's antennae twitched in surprise. An astute observation. Few non-arthropods understand our evolutionary history so well. That's the point of all this, Kevin said, gesturing toward the planet below. Understanding each other, finding connections, building something greater together than any of us could achieve alone. And becoming the galaxy's apex predator in the process, Vkr'lak added dryly. Kevin laughed. I prefer to think of humanity as the galaxy's first apex collaborator. We don't want to conquer the stars, Captain. We want to dance with them. As Vkr'lak watched the bustling activity on the planet below, where representatives from hundreds of species were gathering to share ideas, technologies, and cultures, she began to understand. Humanity hadn't conquered the galaxy through force or fear, but through curiosity and connection. They had become essential not by making others weaker, but by making the entire galactic community stronger. They were indeed predators of a sort, but ones that strengthened their prey rather than consuming it. And in the process, they had transformed the very concept of what galactic dominance could mean. Perhaps, Vkr'lak said finally, this is how a truly mature interstellar civilization should operate. Kevin smiled. We're still figuring it out ourselves, but we'd love to have your help with that. And as the first session of the Galactic Cultural Summit commenced, with hundreds of species sharing their knowledge, art, and perspectives, a new kind of galactic order began to take shape, one based not on hierarchy or conquest, but on connection and collaboration. Humanity had indeed become the galaxy's apex predator, not by being the strongest or the most aggressive, but by being the most connective. And somehow no one had even noticed until it was too late to matter.